Right, so we're back and ready to dive into some of the biggest stories making headlines here in the U.S. today, February 8th, 2025.
Sounds good to me.
And, our source for today's deep dive is a quick snapshot from Google News, just to get a sense of what's really capturing the nation's attention.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it is an interesting mix. We've got some tragedy mixed in with some
Yeah.
real political controversy.
Yeah, it really is a mix of things that hit us on a human level, kind of that like visceral reaction, and then some stuff that's just straight up political drama.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, why don't
Yeah.
we start with a story that really highlights that human element?
Sure.
We've been following the story of this missing aircraft in Alaska.
Right.
10 people on board vanished over near Nome.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nome, Alaska, that's a place known for its pretty tough terrain and unpredictable weather.
Oh yeah, very remote, very difficult to search and rescue in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's just vast wilderness.
Right.
So, of course, it sparked this massive search effort.
Oh.
And unfortunately, we do have a pretty somber update.
Oh no.
They did locate the aircraft,
Okay.
but so far they've only recovered 3 bodies.
Oh wow, so 7 people still unaccounted for.
Yeah, and it's a stark reminder of just how dangerous aviation can be,
Hmm.
especially in a place like Alaska.
Definitely. And the weather up there can change in an instant. You can go from clear skies to, a blizzard in a matter of minutes.
Oh.
And then you add in, the mountainous terrain and the limited visibility. It's just a recipe for disaster sometimes.
Yeah, and for, those of us who maybe haven't experienced flying in those kinds of remote conditions, it really does make you think about just how brave those pilots and passengers are, to kind of put their trust in, the technology and their skills to get them through those kinds of challenging environments.
Absolutely. I mean, you're really relying on the expertise of the pilot and the crew in those situations, and it just shows you how quickly things can go wrong.
Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, our thoughts are with the families of those who are still missing, just waiting for answers.
Yeah, I can't imagine what they're going through.
It's definitely a difficult situation all around.
Yeah.
Okay, well, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about a story that's been causing some major waves down in Washington.
Yeah.
And that is this USA staffing controversy.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about this.
Now, for our listeners who might not be, super familiar with the USAT, it stands for the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Right.
And they're basically responsible for providing aid, all around the world.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of really important work in developing countries and in disaster relief efforts.
Yeah, exactly. So the Trump administration had this plan to put thousands of USAID staff on leave.
Mm.
But there's been a big development in this story. A federal judge has actually temporarily blocked this move.
Really?
Uh,
Okay, so what happened?
Well, it all stems from a lawsuit that was filed by Illinois, Cook County, and Chicago.
Oh.
And this legal battle, it has huge implications for USAI. I mean, they rely so heavily on their staff,
Yeah.
to implement these programs, to deliver aid, and to build relationships with partner countries.
Right, you can't just put thousands of people on leave and expect those programs to run smoothly. It's going to cause a lot of disruption.
Yeah. And this halt, it throws a real wrench in their operations.
Yeah.
Particularly for those folks who are stationed overseas.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. What happens to those people?
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. You're a USAID worker. You're stationed, let's say, in a developing country somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden your visa status is in limbo.
Right.
You don't know if you're going to have a job.
That's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and, the vital programs that you're working on, they're suddenly at risk.
Yeah, and these are programs that are often providing essential services like healthcare or education. It's not just about the workers, it's about the people who rely on those programs.
Exactly. So it's a deeply personal impact on top of all those, broader policy implications.
Definitely.
And, it really throws a spotlight on just how complex this whole issue of foreign aid really is. I mean, the work that USA does is vital.
Absolutely.
We're talking about things like providing health care, disaster relief, promoting economic development.
Hey, things that really make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah. And this whole situation, it raises some serious concerns about the potential disruption to all of those efforts.
Yeah, I mean, are these programs going to be put on hold? Are they going to be scaled back? It's a big question mark right now.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder, what the ripple effects of this decision could be, not just for USAID,
Mhm.
but for the people who rely on their assistance.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's move on to our final story for today. And this one's a real doozy. Um, President Trump has revoked former Vice President Joe Biden's security clearance.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah. So just to be clear, security clearances, they allow individuals to access classified information even after they leave office.
Right. So they can advise or consult on, sensitive matters.
Exactly.
But I mean, revoking a former VP's
It's
clearance,
incredibly rare.
yeah, you don't see that very often. It makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
It really does. And it immediately raises all these questions about what the motivations are for this kind of move.
Right. Is it politically motivated? Is it related to specific concerns about how Biden handled classified information? It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, and it's a really bold move. I mean, this has the potential to impact Biden in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Firstly, it limits his ability to advise on national security issues. He's essentially cut out of those conversations.
Right.
And then secondly, and let's be honest, it could have some serious implications for any future political aspirations he might have.
Yeah, if he was thinking about running for office again, this definitely throws a wrench in those plans.
It does. Not to mention, just the broader political fallout. I mean,
Hmm.
this kind of action is just bound to escalate tensions between the parties.
Yeah, it's going to fuel those existing divisions, and it could potentially set a precedent for future administrations.
Right. So it's a significant event, and it could have some pretty long-lasting effects on the political landscape going forward.
It's definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what we've seen today, it's almost like a microcosm of what's happening in the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
You've got this story of human tragedy.
Right?
You've got this legal battle with global repercussions.
Yeah.
And you've got this political power play with potential long-term consequences.
It really makes you think.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, how will these seemingly disconnected events actually shape the future of U.S. foreign policy
Yeah.
and domestic politics?
Yeah.
I think that's a question worth pondering, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's it for today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
All right,
See ya.
bye.